Hello everyone, you're welcome back. And to my new and returning subscribers, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it and I'm grateful. Back to the cooking of the day. Today's recipe is moi moi. Do you want to know how I made this delicious, tasty food? Please watch this video. I'll start by showing you the beans. To make moi moi, you definitely will need beans, and these can be any beans. Whenever I make moi moi, I always do large quantities, so that's why I have a lot of beans, and that's 7 cups of beans in there. I'll be using some plastic bowls. These plastic bowls are very good and they are also reusable. You can also use takeaway foil papers. I've got some microwave fish because I'm making a lot. I'll be using 2. But you can also use egg to make moi moi. I will also be using dry prawn. My love for dry prawn. I don't make moi moi without one. But feel free to use whatever you have. Or you can even make moi moi without some. Blended crayfish. This is very important when you're making moi moi. I'll be using some bell peppers, 2 onions, 2 scotch bonnets, and salt. I really don't like my food too spicy, so 2 scotch bonnets is fine, but feel free to add as much as you want. Maggi cube, and I'll be using some olive oil. You can also use any oil of your choice. My little very secret, the secret of my tasty moi moi is I always add some meat stock, and this can be any meat stock. To start, I'll be showing you the process of how I peel the beans. This is a very difficult work. In fact, this is one of the things that most people hate when it comes to making moi moi. You can also use the peeled beans that has been peeled and is dried. All you have to do is just to soak it. Feel free to use whatever beans. Sometimes some people use the beans flour, but it's up to you. To be honest with you, this is one of the parts I like with moi moi. To peel the beans is very easy. I find it so easy and quick for me. This would take me roughly like 30 minutes sometimes, or if I'm fast enough it could take me like 20 minutes to get everything done. Please note that these beans, I didn't soak it. I only just ran a bit of water and I started washing it immediately. Some people will say add water and soak the beans. When I do that, I even find it more difficult to peel the skin from the beans. The best way to peel your beans, just add a bit of water and immediately start scrubbing the beans. Then the skin will gradually fall off from the beans. I'll be running some water on the beans and I'll repeat the process until the beans is wet clean. Then after that, I'll be soaking the beans. I usually soak the beans for at least up to 4 to 5 hours. This will help the beans to be very soft in order not to damage your blender. This is what I use to sieve the water from the beans. Before soaking the beans, I usually soak the beans with the hot water from the tap. After soaking the beans for 5 hours, the quantity of the beans has increased and the beans is much softer. The softer the beans, the better for it to blend very smoothly on the blender and it will not damage your blender. I'll be showing you how I season the fish. It's very good to add some seasoning when cooking the fish, so the fish can have some taste. But if you're using egg, it's so easier with egg. Sometimes I use both fish and egg, but because I have dry prawn, so I'd rather use fish and dry prawn. For seasoning meat or fish, I always like to blend the onions, garlic, ginger and scotch bonnet. I added a bit of curry powder, Maggi cube and salt, and I'll be cooking the fish for 15 minutes. I'll be running some water on the prawn to give it a quick clean in case there's any sand on it. And then I'll sieve out the water and leave aside. Back to the beans, which is the main work. You can see how clean the beans looks. It was quite a lot of beans, so I split them into 2 and I'll put some in the freezer for another day. I'll put the beans in the blender, then I'll add some water. Ensure you don't put too much beans so it will blend quickly. Please note, the beans has to be blended very smooth, and I'll repeat this process until I'm done with the beans. Next, I'll be getting a pot ready. I usually like to mix the beans in the pot, but you can also use the bowl, but this is what I prefer to use. This pot has space for me to mix the beans. That's why I always prefer to use pot. That's all the beans done and very smooth. I'll be blending the scotch bonnet, onions and the bell peppers. Moi moi is not easy to cook. It's so stressful, but I mean, it's worth it. It's so nice. And when I cook them in a large portion, so I put some in the freezer. These are the plastic bowls that I'll be using for the moi moi. I normally just rinse them quickly, then I'll give them a wipe with some kitchen towels. That's why moi moi is so expensive to make, or even when you order, because of the stress you have to go through just to make it. Sometimes what I normally do in order to make my life much easier is to wash the beans a day before and soak it for 6 or 5 hours, and after that I'll put the beans in the freezer bag and I'll leave it in the freezer for the next day. I've just added the blended scotch bonnet, the onions and the bell pepper to the blended beans. I'll be using the wooden spoon to gently mix, and I'll ensure the beans is well mixed with the blended scotch bonnet, onions and bell peppers. After mixing the beans, I'll be adding the grounded crayfish and some salt. I only added a bit of salt because the beef stock has some salt and Maggi. I'll get a small pot and I'll pour in the meat stock. I'll heat up the meat stock for about a minute or two, then I'll add some Maggi cube. This will help to dissolve the Maggi cube, but if you're not using meat stock, you can also dissolve the Maggi cube using hot water. I will start with the wooden spoon, then I will leave to heat up for about 2 minutes. I'll be adding the meat stock. Please feel free to add water if you do not have meat stock. The first time I made moi moi using meat stock to mix instead of water, I really enjoyed the taste. That's why I always like to add meat stock when making moi moi. Please ensure the mixture is not too watery, as we want it a bit thick. I will also be heating up the oil in the pot. You can also use pan, and I added a bit of onions. Please note, you can also add the oil straight away into the beans without having to heat up your oil, but this is how I do mine. And the onions, I only added it just to give the oil some flavor. The oil will be going into the beans, and I also took out the onions. And I will ensure this is well combined and thoroughly mixed. This is the stress I have to go through, or we have to go through, just to make moi moi. If you're African and you're not from Nigeria and you're wondering how we make moi moi, some of my friends who are non-Nigerians, they love moi moi. They always say, oh, how do you make it? I say, oh, this is so stressful. So if you're watching this video, this is how moi moi is being made. But you can also use the peeled beans, but I will not encourage you to use the beans flour. I took out all the bones from the fish. The prawn also is clean and ready. I will get the little plastic bowls which I'll be using to dish the good thing I like about using this plastic bowl to make moi moi is that they are reusable, so you don't have to throw them away. When I take out the moi moi, I just wash them again and I keep them for another time. I'll be putting a little bit of fish and one prawn in the beans. Feel free to make moi moi without one. You can even use egg. Sometimes, what do you eat with moi moi? We like moi moi with jollof rice, but I also prefer it with custard in the morning, especially for breakfast. It's so yummy. It was quite a lot of moi moi, and I had like 30 of these bowls. I'll be getting the pot ready, which I'll be using to cook the moi moi, and I also lay some foil paper underneath the pot. It's always good to lay foil paper underneath the pot, just in case there's any burnt while you're cooking the moi moi. I also added a very little water underneath the pot. I'll be cooking this on a medium heat until the moi moi is well cooked. Please note, you can also use the takeaway foil papers to make moi moi, because sometimes it's hard to find these plastic bowls to buy. In one of my old moi moi videos, A lady asked me from Canada if I know where she could buy these bowls from, and I said I don't know because I live in London and it's so hard to even find it here. Because it's a lot of moi moi I'm doing, so I had to cook this like 3 times in different portions. While the moi moi is cooking, I'll keep checking every now and then. This is just to ensure the water doesn't get dried, as we usually cook moi moi with very little water. After cooking the moi moi for about 15 minutes, I'll be checking underneath the pot if I still have enough water in there. Somehow the camera didn't capture the part where I added more water. That's because I think I didn't set it properly. But I also added enough water, and the moi moi should be cooked for at least 30 to 40 minutes. When making moi moi, the best way to know if the moi moi is ready, I will gently open the plastic, then I will check the texture. You can see how dry the texture of the moi moi looks. That means the moi moi is cooked and ready to be eaten. Moi moi can be eaten with jollof rice, it can be eaten with pap or custard. Whichever one you prefer, moi moi is always moi moi. It's so tasty and delicious. If you have not yet tried this recipe of how to make moi moi by mixing it with mixed stock instead of using normal water, please ensure you do and you will thank me later. Thank you so much for watching this video. You've made my day and I hope I made yours too. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Please, if you're new or if you've been watching my video and you've not yet subscribed, please support me by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to click on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload new videos. Thank you so much for your time. To my new and returning subscribers, I'm so grateful. Thanks for all the love and the support. And I will see you on my next video. Have a lovely day. Goodbye and bye. Bye-bye.